the student scholars of today for the business of tomorrow is why the Chamber has a special relationship with our educational institutions, particularly the Federal Way Public School District. We know that our students, scholars today, are leaders tomorrow. They are the future innovators, the disruptors, the job creators, the entrepreneurs. They will invent new technologies, launch new enterprises, volunteer in our community, and live a life full of friends and family due to the educational start they receive right here in our school districts. And businesses don't have to go on a wild safari hunt when they are looking to fill the talent pipeline. Because when you combine the leadership of the Federal Way School Board with the strategic vision of Superintendent Dr. Tammy Campbell and the dedication every day, selfless, the employees of Federal Way's largest employer, the district, what you get is a commitment to the future, to our workforce, to our students, the scholars who are ready to rock the world with the skill set our district has given them. Ladies and gentlemen, the rock star of the education system throughout the state of Washington, Superintendent Dr. Tammy Campbell.
First of all, I want you to look around this room and look at who's here to talk about the schools in our village. Thank you for being here today. We're really fortunate. I'd like to start by thanking Becca for her steadfast vision and support of education as the foundation for economic development in Federal Way, and you do it all the time. Thank you, Becca. I want to thank the Board of Directors of Federal Way Public Schools for being learners and supporters of this work. Would you please stand? All the board members that are here. And I want our Liz Drake to, yes, Liz, although you're not on the board, you were an important part of the team, so please stand. Claire, Lakeisha, Trudy, and I know Jeffrey wanted to be here, as well as Hiroshi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Elected officials that are here, and district administrators who are here. If you're a district administrator, I'd like you to, I know standing up is difficult, can you just do sort of a wave so people see who's in the room? Thank you. The principals and district leaders that are here are all in. When I tell you they're all in, they are all in. And they're working at their sites, making incredible things happen for our children. And I couldn't be prouder to have that team. And lastly, the most important people as representatives, our scholars. Would you please stand? You are the reason we exist as an organization, and as I like to tell people, if there were no children, there would be no teachers, there would be no bus drivers, there would be no principals, there would be no superintendent, there would be no board of directors if there were no children. And let's be reminded about what this work is about. It's about you, and the other 23,000 plus who are in their schools right now. So thank you. As I enter my 4th year as superintendent of Federal Way Public Schools, I remember the early months of my first year. I listened and learned and heard about the assets of the district that included strong teachers and principals and support staff who wanted to support our students and who wanted to do that well. I also quickly assessed that we had a community of leaders who were committed to supporting our schools. Finally, I learned that Federal Way Public Schools was a district who unfortunately received much less funding than some of the surrounding districts. And unfortunately, I have to tell you, that really hasn't changed. And it'll be important as I get into some of the details around our metrics. In that first year, we had no strategic plan. Schools each had differing plans for improvement. We were seeing a 5-year decline on the state assessment. We hadn't done a district-wide adoption in curriculum in 20 years in reading and math. I want you to think about that. Most districts are doing that almost every cycle of 5 to 7 years. That hadn't happened here in 20 years. We had feedback about a lack of responsiveness, so when I met at different coffee shops and in parents' homes. They were talking about reaching out to the district and people not getting back to them. And also at this time, our graduation rate was 79%. Today, continued funding inequities that still persist for our district still exist. However, we have done so much more with less than many of our surrounding districts. I want to share with you that we now have a strategic plan. All of our schools are on the same page. We have begun the adoption of curriculum that many of our surrounding districts have had in place for decades. We have robust goals and metrics, and we are wholly committed to making Federal Way Public Schools the very best district in the state. So when you leave today, I have some deliverables that I'd like you to say you're aware of. I want you to walk away understanding the journey we've been on as a school district and what we're doing to continue to get better. I want you to be able to say, oh, I know the areas of growth. I want you to be able to say, Dr. Campbell outlined where there could be improvements made, and I always come to the table being transparent that there are areas that we can still grow. I want to lay out some big ideas for our plan for improvement, and I want to enlist you as advocates for our scholars. Let's hear from our scholars in this video. I want them and their presence to be here today.
How diverse our community is, it just teaches us all different cultures, and that gives us a lot of experience.
It's open to like anyone.
Our school is the best place for our migrant kids to learn.
I'm proud to go to this school because I know that we'll be safe. The teachers are really nice.
They help me learn, and they try to work hard for everyone in this whole school.
That we're diverse and that we're all accepting, and that just because you come from this place or you just came here, that it's not going to be only you, and that there's many people and there's many clubs that you can join. Everybody has a connection.
Having people that I could turn to at every corner was what made FWPS special to me.
Every day gets better, and every day students come in wanting to make the school better, and staff come in doing the same. The staff is so invested in the way we learn and in the way we'll succeed.
I'm proud because this school gave me an opportunity to learn and serve.
Being here, it got me interested in a lot of stuff because they can help me get a job.
I think it helps me to build up my confidence.
We have advanced classes, IB classes, and I just took one this year. It's really hard, but it's very challenging, and I want this to help me for my future.
I'd like to be more of a leader.
To try to be a good role model.
Be safe and be kind, do the right thing.
I really want to get people involved more.
A football player.
Graduate from college and become a journalist.
Building computers and computer programming.
I want to be a teacher myself because I got inspired through here.
Just a few thoughts and ideas from our scholars. Let's take a look at some of our metrics so you can get a sense of where we are in terms of continuous improvement. When you think about who we are as a district, 23,000 plus scholars, 117 languages spoken, 37 schools, and 1 in 2 of our scholars have received English language learner services, meaning they're speaking 2 or more languages. And that's an important thing to know about the district. We're the 5th most diverse district in the nation, and we're the most diverse district in the state of Washington. 62% of our scholars receive free and reduced lunch services. So when you think about this is a journey. School district improvement is not like each year you do one thing and all of a sudden you're going to see these leaps. It's a windy path of improvement. And as in my 4th year, I can attest to that, and the metrics will bear that out. This is our 3rd year implementing our strategic plan. Raise your hand in the room if you were a part of helping to craft that strategic plan, if you served on a committee. So if you look around the room, and there will be community members as well as district staff. That strategic plan drives everything that we do. So here are some highlights. Again, if you go to the website Niche, they outline the fact that, again, we're the most diverse district in the nation, in the state, as well as the 5th most diverse district in the nation. We just learned we have 3 elementary schools that are listed in the top 100 elementary schools in the region: Sunnycrest, Lake Grove, and Valhalla. If you're in the room, we want to give those schools a shout out. The reason this is important, often people will speak about 1 or 2 schools that they think are thriving in the district, and what you're going to hear, that is, we certainly have what I call highlight schools, but we have a lot of schools that are doing good things. TAF at Saghalie, this is the 7th year in a row that this school has been recognized by the state of Washington as a school of distinction. It received the award as one of 26 schools in the Puget Sound region out of 331 schools. And this school received this for the graduation attainment that has happened at that school. Shout out to TAF at Saghalie. They've been given this award more than any other school, 7 years in a row. Our Federal Way School Board, for the 3rd year in a row, just now we learned they again received the Board of Distinction Award. There are 295 school boards. This award was given to 29 school boards. Shout out again to our school board for receiving that recognition. Those of you in the room who've received the invite to the Federal Way grand opening, please come out to see. We could not do this without our community supporting infrastructure. We're about to have the grand opening of Federal Way High School on December 5th. And at that time, you'll get to see what a facility can do to open a path to learning. So again, thank you, voters. In addition, because of the voters passing this over $500 million bond, we're not right now in the throes of beginning to build Mirror Lake, Lake Grove, and Wildwood in 2020. In 2021, TJ will be launched, as well as in 2021-2022, Star Lake and Totem. The last round of schools will involve Olympic View and Illahee. And in addition, Memorial Field will get a facelift as a result of the work that's happening with the bond. I want to thank the community, and I'd like everyone in the room to give the community a big round of applause. We're building schools that will last for 50 years. We're changing the face of the district with these structures. And so we couldn't be prouder about the imprint, the footprint that will happen as a result of this construction effort. So let's look at some other data. Goal 1 is the first goal in the strategic plan. It's the early years. Here's what we can tell you. When we now look at our own classroom data, and there's an assessment called the ERLA data, we can look from 2017 to 2018, we're seeing an increase from 15% to 20%. We also have a rigorous district assessment called iReady at 3rd grade. We're seeing from 34% to 36% of our 3rd graders improving. And that is also showing up on the state assessment. It's the first time we're starting to see it, and these are the kids who would have been there at the very beginning when the changes started as a result of the strategic plan. And we know when our youngest learners are starting to catch up, things turn around. And I want to give a big shout out for this particular data. And this is data you won't hear about. So way to go to the schools who are really pushing that early learning. Another data point has to do with our participation at conferences. When I first became superintendent, we had spotty participation of parents who were attending our conferences. As of the spring 2018, we got about 94% of our parents, and many of our schools have 100% parents showing up at student-led conferences. So this, again, is another milestone. It's not one of those metrics you'd see on a website that rates a school, but this is an important metric because we cannot do that work alone. Another area that's often talked about is safety. So we do this survey. It's called the CEE survey. We survey scholars, and we ask them, how safe do you feel? Well, this particular survey tells us that our elementary scholars are the ones who have the highest feeling of safety, and as they get older, that safety decreases. And one of the things that we're proud about that we've done, we've launched school-wide efforts where each school is intensifying their school-wide safety plan. We're partnering with our local law enforcement to make sure that we have those procedures in place. And the school is doing PD efforts, professional development, to help teachers to make this number improve. But one of the things that I know that I hear out there is that the schools are just wildly unsafe and all of this misbehavior is happening, and I wanted to show this to you. This particular data illustrates that of all of the scholars that we have, 94% of them have had no major discipline at all. 94%. And I think people would be surprised to hear that. We do believe there should be instances where you're going to have misbehavior. It is a school. That's where children are coming. They're coming there to learn. And so we know that we have to attend to it, but I think it's important for you to know this number, that we are not seeing this massive piece around not safe schools that sometimes persist in rumor. For those of you who came to our STEM night, and we will be having it again this year, we had over 5,000 plus scholars over the last 2 years who are now experiencing science, technology, engineering, and math. There are so many jobs out there, and if we don't prepare our scholars to take advantage of it, they will not be ready. We do things in the summer where we have summer STEM camps, and we also now are increasing middle school robotics at all of our middle schools so that our scholars early on can have those opportunities and then take those courses and take advantage of those careers when they leave us, when they graduate. Here's something we're really excited about. It's about to launch. It's called Scholar Art in the City. If you see a business listed here, this business has agreed to showcase art from a school in the district that will have pictures and writing from scholars in those buildings, because we believe that when our community sees our scholars writing and their pictures, they're connected. It's hard to deny excellence when you see that right in front of you. So you're going to see this in all the places all around the district, and this is an effort we hope to increase as we launch it this year. So I want to thank anyone who's associated. I know the Chopped Leaf is a business that I go to often because I think they have the best salads in the world, and they were one of the first to agree that they would host and have our pictures and our student work there. So thank you to all the businesses that are here. Now here is the data point, the one data point that often gets a lot of publicity, and it's where our schools often are, you hear our schools aren't doing well. I will tell you, we have room to grow, and I want to share it with you. So the first thing I want you to look at is look at the state. This is a state assessment. They test our scholars on reading and writing and math. It's called the SBA, Smarter Balanced Assessment is what it's called. So if you look at the state, what do you notice? Just kind of tell a partner, what's the word you'd use to describe the shape of that? It's going down, right? So, and look at where they started, 67%. Look at Federal Way. Where did we start? Start lower, and we have the exact same shape at the state level, right? We're going down. Look at all the other districts around us. Auburn, Highline, Kent, Renton, Tukwila. What do you notice? Same pattern, right? And what I will tell you, this is not good enough for us, but I want to remind you of something. We've had 2 decades of no curriculum in this district. We're just building infrastructure that these other school districts have, but at the end of the day, I think most people would predict that these school districts would be way up here. I think most people are surprised that this is where all of the districts are. And I am not making an excuse, but it's important to know that this one metric that they're talking about, all of us are struggling with how to see our scholars reap the reward and benefit based on this assessment. Math is even worse. So look at math. What do you notice that's happening in all these districts? Basically, wherever they started, they stayed. They're stuck. This is the state assessment. This is the assessment that people look at when they look at these websites and then they rate our school district. But it's one metric. But here's what I want to tell you. This particular data point, they're averaging all of our school data into one number. But when we tease that out, we found something out, and this is what I want to share with you. When you look in math, for example, this is a regression line, but basically all it does, it's showing, for example, this school right here is one of our schools in the district. This is a school that has a certain level of poverty, and as you go down this line, and now Diana, is this more poverty on this side? So this is a school that has less poverty, this is a school that has more. These schools there are hundreds of schools here with the same amount of poverty. What these stars show are our schools that are outperforming their like schools across the state. So they're outperforming like schools. Last year we had 8 schools that were outperforming other schools like them in math. This year we have 16 schools that are now outperforming their peers when we look across the state. That's a huge piece of growth. In language arts, last year we had 9 schools that were outperforming the state. And what causes our scores to be lower is when you average all of those schools together, you lose sight of the growth that's happening at the individual school level. And we know our work is to get these schools up. When they go up, the total scores go up. But this year, we have 12 schools. From 9 to 12, a 25% increase of schools who are now outperforming other peer schools across the state. We know this is not good enough. We know that we want to continually improve, and we're going to be relentless about it. Ultimately, scholar results are what drive us. But here's something I want to tell you. Schools can't do this alone. Our output and our effort has not been matched by state input and funding. Over the past 10 years, Federal Way Public Schools, our scholars have received $76 million less than the scholars in surrounding districts. So when people are talking about a failing school district, we've got to know what the school district has been doing with less. That's important to know. I just saw in the newspaper that Seattle Schools has passed, or the city of Seattle has passed a $600 million levy. You know what that's for? Preschool. That means those scholars in Seattle are going to get even more of a head start, and I like that. But we've got to understand when we're comparing districts to districts what we're comparing them to and what has been a part of the input. Now, Goal 5 is an area where I will say in the local young person's vernacular, we're killing it, and you'll see why. So last year, you can see our graduation rates were improving, and you can see by these second bars. See that? So we were moving in the right direction. Now look at the latest graduation numbers. That's the green bar. Do you see what's happening at every one of our schools? Every one of them are closely now heading towards that 90%. TJ is the school that has 90% graduation, and Taft Saghalie has 100%. So how do we compare when we look at the region? Well, look, you can see that Federal Way Public Schools has the highest graduation rate in the roadmap region. And we're doing that because we're looking at our scholars much earlier. At 9th grade, we're making sure they're on track for graduation. The other thing that we're doing is that we're making sure that they're signing up for federal student aid and making sure they see a path once they leave our schools. And we have a higher rate of FAFSA sign-up than the state. And here's how you really tackle graduation. You tackle it years before they walk across the stage. And so our 9th grade on track, meaning that they've got the credits that they need to be on path, you see how each year that's increasing because we meet at every high school and we track their credits and we really push that area. And here's something else that's a little secret. Federal Way High School is surpassing Federal Way Public Schools is surpassing the state average for students who enroll in a 2- or 4-year program. We're outperforming the state average, and Todd Beamer is killing it, again, with about 70%, and I think that's absolutely incredible. And so I want to thank our high school principals for that. Our scholars last year who graduated in total had about $12 million in scholarships that were awarded. Again, that's another incredible metric. So, those are just a few of the metrics that will illustrate where we know we're getting better and areas that we know we need to improve. And what I want to do at this time is give you some thinking that I've had over the last few weeks and months, especially as education has been in the forefront. Federal Way Public Schools is ours. It's not theirs, it's ours. The school district sits inside a city with adults who live and work here, and they leave their children with us for 6+ hours a day, 5 days a week. It's an incredible responsibility we have, but it is a shared responsibility with every citizen of the cities we serve. Here's what we plan on doing to continue to move the needle. We're looking at data. We're getting really good at that in student work, and we're then refining our practices. We're staying focused on the goals in the strategic plan. That strategic plan is not changing. We're staying focused on that. We're continuing to adopt curriculum to catch up for the many areas where we've not had support in the classroom that our teachers need to teach our scholars. We're strengthening our use of data, really getting clear about the number of scholars who aren't on track and how we can help them. And we're continuing our focus on safety. We've got a great partnership with the city, the police department of Kent, Des Moines, and King County around rapid responder protocols. We're doing district-wide safety checks. In fact, we're about to purchase a software program that will actually monitor social media accounts for our scholars to notice if bullying or things like that are happening. Those are the types of things that we're doing to ramp up safety across our school district. What we need, we're calling on ordinary members of our staff and our community to do extraordinary things. We can't do this work alone. Schools are an extension of the community. We need you to make a difference as a mentor in our schools, volunteer your time, and speak of the possibility and optimism about your school district, whether you have children in them or not. Be a doubter or a difference maker. That really is it. There's no in between. And I want to share something with you before I leave you with one final video. When I reflect on the work of educating our children, I must remind you that great schools sit within great communities and great neighborhoods with policies and actions of the larger community that support and elevate those schools. So when words are irresponsibly thrown around like bad schools or failing schools, make no mistake, this implies failing neighborhoods, a failing community, a failing government, because schools are merely an extension, a reflection of the investment of the community, parents, and educators place on our scholars. Federal Way Public Schools is on the path to being a great school district, and we need difference makers, not doubters. Remember, every action you take has a consequence. We cannot know if our ordinary actions will have an extraordinary impact. When you're in the moment of doing it, you don't know. So we must make it count. I will leave you with this story that illustrates the impact we have on young people. About a month and a half ago, I was sitting in my office checking my emails, and I opened this particular email. Hi, Dr. Campbell. While you don't know me, you knew my husband when he was in your 4th and 5th grade class back in 1999. His name is Matt Schindler, and you were the first to call him the human calculator. He struggled through school and was never a strong reader and writer, and he said that they often said that he shouldn't have been in a regular class. However, your encouragement and support pushed him to pursue a career in math. He graduated from Eastern with an accounting degree, and after years of studying, he recently became a CPA. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from Matt and his mom that you were the key person in his educational career. I wanted to reach out to you and thank you for being the educator that you were for him then, and I'm sure you continue to be for many students. As a kindergarten teacher myself, I can't wait to see where my students go in life, and I hope one day I will hear from them like you're now hearing from Matt. Bottom line, I didn't know that when everyone thought Matt could make it, but what I said was, I'm going to make it count. Ordinary actions having an extraordinary trajectory. And I want you to think about that as you watch this video, because I think the video captures the spirit of how ordinary things can be tilted towards the extraordinary. Let's make this the best year yet. Let's be ordinary every day to make those extraordinary things happen. Thank you.